So thank you for coming into Think Different Nation, Steve Jobs Playbook. So in this episode, I want to talk about the difference between creativity and innovation, because oftentimes they can be used synonymously, but I don't think the current definitions really provide actionable information that you can use in understanding those words. So when you Google the word creativity, it'll come up with some type of meaning like the ability to generate new and original ideas, concepts, and solutions. So it's very much so imagination oriented, because you're coming up with new ideas and concepts through that imagination process. Now, when you Google the word innovation, it says something a little bit different. It says a process of implementing creative ideas into practical and usable solutions, products, and services. It's more so execution, and it's considered as being more so execution oriented, the task of the pulling together the pieces. But I want to give you a different framing of that word, of the two words together, to help you to better understand how I believe the innovative mindset truly defines that word from the standpoint of how it actually plays out as far as an action is concerned. You see, I see innovation as more so the strategic generation. I see innovation as more so from diverse fields, areas, and spaces. Basically, wherever you are, whatever you're inclined to go towards, and that's aligned towards whatever you seek to create. And therefore, reimagining forms, functions, and styles as a result of what's been observed to create meaningful solutions in progress. The strategic generation of ideas in diverse fields and areas, basically spaces, to create what you are imagining, to create and reimagine the use of forms, functions, and styles in meaningful and transformative ways. And if you think about the term mental alchemy, it speaks of being able to create something completely new from the soul. It speaks of being able to create something completely new from the sum total of all the individual parts that are used, all those individual dots. And therefore, if you align that with innovation, it is the aggregation of all those different dots in a directed way. So to better understand this, you have to look at creativity as a process or a verb rather than a noun. And consider going back to mental alchemy, the process of creating mentally, what it actually involves. For example, take driving a car. Driving a car becomes ubiquitous for all of us who's driven a car for any period of time because it moves into the muscle. But when you first learn to drive a car, you have to learn where to put your hands. You have to learn where to put your feet. You have to learn to be able to watch both sides, watch what's going on behind you, understand the movement, whether you're talking about a manual shift, which is what I learned on, or an automatic. You have to be able to figure out, how do I stay between lines where all these different things are moving around? And it's a very complicated process that the brain has to learn. It has to create new neural pathways to assist in developing that skill set. But once it's in the muscle, once those neural pathways have been developed, it becomes an automatic function. Well, that's the same way it works with a curious child who was curious back in the day. They observed more deeply. They took in information. They acquired knowledge, seemingly without even knowing it. Those dots were of forms, functions, and styles. And then they were moving on. Steve Jobs spoke of one of his most impactful speeches, where it was during a Stanford University commencement address, and he was delivering this in 2005. And he gave this address that was designed to answer some of the questions that had been posed to him by academia or by different students that he had run across, or even corporations. And they were trying to understand, what is the process that you follow that you're able to create such innovative products? And his answer was, well, you can't connect the dots by looking forward. You can only connect them by looking backwards. So you have to trust that those dots will somehow connect in your future. And he goes on to continue by saying, you have to trust in something, whether it's your gut, your life, karma, destiny. And he leaves the last part of it or whatever. But in giving that quote, his subconscious mind for him defined the process of innovation. And those dots that he was referring to, those dots are patterns that he picked up on that were anomalies that he chose to dig into more deeply, to learn more about. Because we all perceive and understand what we experience through patterns. But here's the thing about that. Patterns follow rules. If you look at any pattern that plays across, if you look at on your TV set, you're seeing the pixels in that TV set, and you're seeing the patterns that give you the understanding of what you're perceiving, what you're seeing within that show. And those patterns are made digitally by zeros and ones. And those zeros and ones comply with rules of code that assist that creator in creating what you're seeing in the first place. And whether it's a camera and translating that information into the zeros and ones that translates it into the digital format of what was perceived, what was captured by the camera, the patterns The patterns were still presented, and they were driven by a set of rules. But the one thing that we fail to understand within this experience is that our reality additionally is structured by rules. The rules of how we will experience it. The rules of how we will experience it, how we will perceive what we are perceiving. And the fact is, we move through life without any recognition and understanding of the fact that those rules are playing out. But today, we walk on a basketball court, never even heard the word basketball, and try to play the game, and then wondering why we're failing out in life, because we don't know the rules. But once you learn and understand them, then you can leverage them to apply them and create mentally what you seek to create. And when you combine that with the way through which we capture that information in the first place, it makes you the all-powerful with respect to creating whatever you're seeking to create with regards to whatever you're seeking to create within this experience. And part of that is how we handle the inter and the intrapersonal side, which Stoicism has beautifully designed and presented that to us in the words of Marcus Aurelius in the Meditations. But if you're wondering how those rules affect our outer experience and the understanding of, again, all the information that we capture and how we translate that captured information into ideas, into understandings, into innovations that truly change the direction of where you're trying to go, or at a macro level of where we are all trying to go. So I want to thank you for coming into this rather heady Think Different Nation, a Steve Jobs Playbook, on the comparison of innovation and creativity. But because I see creativity at a micro level. It's all the individual dots that we've collected to create something new as a result. But I see innovation as a macro level activity of innovation as a macro level process of looking across all those individual dots and looking at the bigger picture, understanding the challenges that you're looking to answer, and then looking across your landscape of experiences to capture them. And if you know how to look, learn, and listen, then the doors are there and the keys are within your hands. But here's the thing. No one can give you the doors or show you where they are or tell you how to use the keys except yourself. And I believe that the doors that he was referring to are the experiences that we've had in the past that we can draw upon for greater understanding of what's currently happening. And the keys are the questions that we ask ourselves when we're facing challenges and going through life and looking for solutions to maybe some of our biggest problems. So thank you again for coming into this podcast. Again, my name is Ty Glover, and I bring clarity to the obvious. So thank you again for coming into this podcast. If you like it, please. So thank you again for coming into this podcast. And if you like it, please hit like and please hit subscribe and share it with your friends. My name is Ty Glover, and share it with your friends. And as usual, my name is Ty, and I bring clarity to the obvious. Cheers.